and image relate in your project?
How you put them together?
My answer to that question is always a question. Well, how do you think?
I think very well.
So I prefer not to give an answer myself, because I think it's more interesting that different people will have different perceptions of how it relates and what it means, or that it doesn't relate.
But you mix the previous recordings. You do live mixing, but not live playing. I mean, it's in this project. Not
in the concert the other night, frankly, what I do is the music is made and the recording is the music. I mean, it's not like a score that a pianist plays. It's in classical music, but the music is the recording, and the recording is a result of making the music. So I play the recording, and even if I'm playing from the computer, I'm simply adding a few sounds and changing those sounds. But I'm not basically affecting the sound in the room very much, so that the sound that you hear comes from a CD, for instance, from a recording.
But it kind of continues a tradition which started with tape music.
Well, that's the reason I use the word recording.
Yeah, in the 60s, or who were the first people to do music concrète? People were the first maybe to do tape music, or.
Well, okay, but this is opening a very long session. If you want to get into that, we could avoid it easily. I'm doing an interview for someone for a book, and his initial question was, it's a book of interviews of a number of composers, and his first question to me was, why am I interested in the drone in this long, continuous sound? And I've been thinking about this for a few weeks. It's not a new question, obviously, and I had just done an interview with someone else which covered some historical aspects of my life, and my initial answer to this question would be starting in 1948, because I began to listen to music and to sound in 1948, and right after that was this whole era of hi-fi, which was about getting to very high quality reproduction of music and of sound from recorded media. So I actually began to listen to music exactly at the time when recording suddenly became possible in a very high quality. And before that it wasn't, because 78s never really sounded that great. There was no recording medium of that kind of, incredible clarity that was possible almost instantly in 1947-48, when the first real tape machines became available. And it was the Nazis who developed the first recording technology.
And why were you?
1944-45.
Why were you interested in the drone? You asked the question yourself, and you didn't answer.
Well, but I was more interested in this historical aspect of recorded sound, and for instance, my first tape recorder was in 1953, and the first very high quality speaker system that I made was in 1953. And so I was both, it was possible to listen to sound in a much higher quality for me as a personal thing, but also to record with fairly high quality sound. And so working with recorded sound was a very natural way to work. And so I was interested in sound, and I'm interested in this like internal structure of sound. And to do that, it's best to have a continuous sound which is constantly changing internally. So a combination of many tones, for instance, at the same time, and those tones, some of those tones are changing all the time. So that the body of this big mass of sound changes internally over time. And that's a drawing.
But where's your interest in the drone in the first place, intellectual or aesthetic? Like, did you...
What's the difference?
Well, that you would first like how it sounded and then discover everything you just said and how you were interested in the internal structure, or is it really because you were a geek and studying the internal works of sound that you thought, oh well, a logical way would be to have long tones or a continuous? Like, where does the inspiration come from? The technical knowledge, or does it come from an intuitive inclination?
I think the question is more interesting than any possible answer. A similar answer to you.
No, but did you decide intellectually to do long tones, or did you like hearing long tones?
I described the genesis of this idea of filming the movement of people working as occurring, say, in a 5-minute period in 1972 or 73. But the development of this idea of making sounds, long sounds, i.e. drones, developed over probably 20 years. So there's no answer to the question, I would think.